All right. Good morning, everybody. We're just hitting the top of the hour, so we're going to get started on our live stream. My name is Bill Corcoran, and I'm a coordinator with Learning Technologies, and my colleague Rob Long, who you'll meet in just a few moments. He's waving to you now. Will be on the call in just a few moments. So, first of all, this session is applicable to many, but it is being geared towards our kindergarten transitions. So, you may have joined last week with maybe a different child in your family. So it's going to be very similar to that, but we're going to try to make some more specific examples for our kindergarten students and your child. So first of all, welcome. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to join us today. So before we go into prayer and a land acknowledgement, we will just kind of give you a breakdown of what the sessions will look like. We're going to go look at a common understanding. So we're kind of understanding of the same, being on the same page for the monumental task that we call virtual learning right now in 2020. How we can support you through this session and in alternate ways through your child's OCSB student.ca Google account and things like Hapara Workspace and Google Drive. And then some logistics that surround you with yourself with the parent portal and forms. Of course, we'll answer some questions along the way. So you will see on each slide at the very bottom, and we'll have it a bit bigger on the screen in just a few moments, tinyurl.com/OCSB, and that's uppercase tech questions, and that's all one big word, no spacing, tinyurl.com/OCSB tech questions. We will be monitoring the submissions, and we'll try to embed these questions into our presentation at the moment. And if not at the end, we'll, if we have time, which we should, we will try to answer as many questions as we can at the moment. Before we do that, our board respectfully acknowledges that we are located on the ancestral, traditional, and unceded Indigenous territory of the Algonquin peoples, on whose territory we pray, learn, play, and work. And it's important with all the things in our minds and our families and our work that we take a moment to ground ourselves in this moment. So I'll take a moment to pause, and then we will I'll go through this prayer for a moment. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. God of hope, comfort and restore all who suffer in body, mind, or spirit. May they know the power of your healing love. Make us willing agents of your compassion. Strengthen us as we share in making people whole. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, so I'm going to officially pass it over to my colleague, Rob Long, and he's going to say hello.
Morning, everyone. And like Bill said, I'm a coordinator here at the board as well in learning technologies. And I just wanted to set some expectations around our virtual academies that we've launched and some general understandings that I want everyone to be aware of as parents. And certainly I've got a pile of kids and now they're old, but so this is very new to all of us, including us at the board. Although we've been running e-learning for many years, this is not the same. This is us moving kids from brick and mortar schools into these virtual schools where kids are at home and now completely relying on technology and different communication channels for everyone to deal with. So it is very, very new. We had to move many thousands of kids, which is a very manual process. I actually think it could happen magically, but it doesn't. And so we had many staff working on this to make this happen. And of course, because it's a manual effort, there's errors and other things that come into play. So not everything is perfect in this shift. And it was many thousand, almost 30% of our kids have moved. And so that was a huge, huge move. And we are just dealing with lots of the aftermath of trying to make that happen. So we've had to change everything we do with this. So how we deliver to kids, how we manage our technology and move it out of the schools, how we deal with parents, how we assess our kids as educators is completely different when they're not there in front of you. And now everything's digital. How we just manage classrooms, attendance, making sure everybody's there. And as we're addressing the little kids today, and I've been working with some of the kindergarten teachers on just how to deal with some of the technology. For them especially, I found that video is very important. And so you need to work with your kids, especially at the beginning, about that video piece, because they want the interaction with the kids so that they can see how they are, how they're doing emotionally. Are they engaged? They're looking for some of that feedback, especially the teachers of younger kids. And sometimes the kids don't understand how to deal with the video either, because they don't know how to position themselves and things and make sure they're in frame and things. So you may have to deal with that a little bit so they can see themselves on the screen and set some of those settings a little bit, just so that the kids can see themselves, and a bit of training just on how do you make sure that if you're going to show your teacher or say something, that you're actually in frame, or if you're going to demonstrate something you've created at home or things like that, which are all activities you're going to be part of, then how do you actually get that in frame so that the teacher can see and the child feels successful at demonstrating what they've actually tried to show. So we're also dealing with a lot of shift in staff and pulling them from schools and putting them in these virtual academies and having whole new workplaces for them and setup and equipment and screens and headsets and all. It goes on and on. Even how we offer curriculum is very, very different. So that means teachers are putting in many, many hours to try and shift their practice around this. So they're working very, very hard to try and make this happen. And it is a lot of work, and it's a completely different set of tasks that they're doing. So I want everyone to just, remember it is a big shift, and just be patient while we try and make sure everything works for you. And as your teachers try to get settled, because many of them may be brand new to that role. You can flip slides there, Bill. And for parents, we talked a little bit about video and how to work with your kids a little bit on that, because it will be important. But remember too, your child's going into a new classroom with new kids. So this is a big shift often for many children, especially younger children. There's going to be a whole new teacher, so they have to get used to a whole new teacher and just be familiar with that environment. Classes are fairly large size, so there's quite a few kids around, just like there were in kindergarten. So again, this is going to be all new to them, and it's going to be new to you as a parent as well. So you're going to have to get to know a whole new teacher, and you're only going to be meeting with them virtually at best. So this is a complete change for what you're going to have to do now going forward. In the home, it is very technology based, so you need access, regular access, and good access to technology and the internet. So that's something you're going to have to help a young child set up and make sure it's ready to go every day. You're just going to have to be on top of it. And you're going to have to understand that in a home where many people are sharing devices, you do need reasonable internet access. So you're going to have to just be there for that. We do make some basic recommendations, and these aren't created by us. But when you look at video conferencing applications and the ability to do other things, you do want to kind of have a baseline of internet access, which is about 10 megabits per second per person who's on video. Your teacher's there to support you, but they're also, although they're mostly tech proficient, they may not be experts. So they're your first line of support, though, to help you. If it's school-based devices, then we do have options where if anything goes really, really wrong, that we can swap those out at the school. If you have BYOD, then we can only, a teacher can only do so much, and we don't have the support staff to scale to support every piece of device that every family owns either. So you may have to rely on some tech friends and others to help support you on some of those. If you're wondering about your connection failing and things like that, one of the things you should test is your internet speed, and you can do that by just Googling speed test. That's there on that slide for you. And just check what it gives you back. So you have a download speed and an upload speed. You need both of them to be reasonable, but especially the download speed is what we're talking about at 10 megabits per second. If you have that in both directions, even better. You tend not to need as high an upload speed as a download. Your upload won't affect your view, but it may affect others viewing you. But you will be doing much less of that than your pure download. So it should be, it's flexible on that front a little bit. Bill, anything else on there?
I moved the slide, I think, too quickly on you. I was trying to be proactive, but I think there was the component of we know that sometimes our tech may not work or there may be something not working. And we just ask as part of that process with you and you're learning with your child is that just like if your child was in a brick and mortar school, you would wait to an appropriate time to jump in and speak with that classroom teacher, even though they're your first line of defense, where we wouldn't walk in the middle of a class on a brick and mortar school day. Whereas in this one, we ask your best to try to wait till the end of the class if you can. We know it's stressful in the moment because it may be something that's limiting your child to it, but the teacher is also teaching all the other children in that class. So please be mindful of that. Perfect. So I think that's good. We're ready to transition off there, Rob.
Yeah. And it's
Perfect.
back to questions. So if you have questions, just do type them into this tiny URL. So it's a spread, it goes through the spreadsheet that we're monitoring so we can check on the questions. It'd be awesome if one person, anybody, all of you, just tried it so that we know it's all working and you're hearing this. So if you just throw something in there, then it'll pop up right away for us. And we are watching this. So we can answer your questions as we go. And at the end, we'll take time again for that. So it'd be, I see 30 people are watching. So if one of you, anyone, maybe all 30, just try it and or try to think of a question you have, and we'll be happy to put that on our question and answers for you.
Awesome. Okay. So we realize that this will be a lot of information to probably take in. So what we've done our best is to try to consolidate this information on the slide deck. And so we will be sharing a link to the slide deck that we're presenting near the end of the session. And during the beginning, we're going to direct you to one of our main go-to sites, which is samaritans.ocsb.ca. That will be on the slide deck that we're sharing, so you don't have to write it down. But if you are writing it down, that is the absolute URL at the top. So you can type that into your Omnibox at the top, and you will go to this site right here. And what Samaritans on the Digital Road is, it's our K-12 and even beyond staff, parents, all of OCSB community about our digital citizenship curriculum. And so one component you may be familiar with is lessons for the students as they go from grade to grade. And those are just starting points of conversations to theme each of the year. Of course, we deal with situations as they come and keep it relevant all year long. But really what for the purpose of today is I'm going to direct you. I'm going to scroll across the top bar. I'm going to hover over the word parents, and I'm going to click on the student use of technology piece. So the things that we're going to be looking at today for you surrounds your student accounts, which means that your child's ocsbstudent.ca account, so it is a Google Gmail account that is within our education domain that every student does get when they register within our school board. So if they are just transitioning now, and I think this is probably something that you might have encountered before you transitioned into virtual, but if not, we'll just go over some logistics on things like passwords or how do you get it if you haven't entered into that yet. I will point out on the right-hand side here, we do get some questions about the G Suite for Education privacy and security policies. So that just means how is it basically different in a G Suite for Education, so a Google for Education privacy settings versus just if I made a Gmail. So at that point, I'll pass that over to Rob so he can just elaborate a little bit. We'll talk about student portals, Chrome profiles and why those are important, especially if you have multiple learners at home or you're sharing devices, of course, which is common. How can we support that in keeping all your accounts separate? And then we're going to jump into Hapara Workspace and a feature called Hapara Highlights. And then just talk about, this is just another example with YouTube accounts, how they're set to restricted mode. So everything within our domain is meant to help support students, but part of the Samaritans on the Digital Road program is to how do we give them the skills to deal with the things that they will encounter within our, as growing up as part of our school board community, as well as beyond. So I'm going to go back to the slide deck, and I'm going to just click along. And so basically, as I mentioned, as soon as your child is registered into the school board and they start school, they do have an OCSBstudent.ca Google account. And typically it's first name dot last name at OCSBstudent.ca. And the only variant would be if there was two children of the same name, and it might be first name dot last name one at OCSBstudent.ca. But your teacher would have those details, and making sure when that is communicated with you. You may not have never had, if this is new to you, you may have never had a password given it to you. So either way, if you've forgotten it or if you need to have that password reset because you've never had it, it's still the same process of having a conversation with your classroom teacher and making sure that that password is reset and communicated with you. The teacher will know it so they can support the child in that case, because this is an OCSB. It's a learning environment. It's by the school board, so they will be able to have that password. And sometimes, if it's needed, because it's an animal name and a number, and your child's going to remember that, the teacher can take some requests here and there to make sure that it's something that they will remember. But in the end, just have that conversation with your teacher. And then same thing here, classroom teacher. But I did mention that I was going to pass it over to Rob. So kind of what's the difference between a classic Gmail I could just create by myself versus a Google for Education domain email?
All right, and I will give you that. There's a couple quick questions I'm going to just address. So, is tomorrow's session the same as today? Yes, it will be the same. If we learn anything from this one, we will try to adapt for tomorrow. But yes, it's the same. If you had a child in kindergarten in the school, they might have been using a QR code to get into their accounts. So that would be a picture-based access. So usually kids in kindergarten and grade 1, we don't require them to type their password until grade 2 within the system. So you may have to be around for that piece to get them on board. So just remember that with the younger kids, the parent probably needs to know that password and get them in to start. And if you need a device and didn't get one already, it should have gone through your home teacher. So if you're moving from brick and mortar into virtual, that should have happened already with your school and a device transfer at that point. So at this point, where now that you're out of the school and stuff, I would copy both teachers on that request if that's something you need. So send an email to both your teachers, and then they can have that discussion. For our domain, when we signed up with Google a long time ago, we worked after the first couple of years and many other boards started to sign on, we worked with the ministry and their lawyers and Google to sign a more rigid contract around our data within the Google environment. Oh, I'm saying Google too much and my assistant is talking to me. So, so we did negotiate a better. Oh my. So our idea was to make sure that our data is handled and removed specifically when we request it, and that it is not being scanned. So those are all pieces of that legal agreement that we signed with Google. So just to let you know, but when they're in our domain, part of the reason we went with Google was for equity purposes, because the accounts outside of our domain are free and have almost all the same services that we have within. Some of our advantages within are that students have unlimited storage capabilities and things like that, which you don't get unlimited, by default outside, but all the same services for the productivity suite and everything are out there. So we wanted to make sure that students were being exposed to services that they could use, whether they were in school or out of school, without requirement of a payment. Back to you, Bill.
Thanks, Rob. Perfect. So one of these pieces that I'm going to mention to you now is a Chrome profile, and it'll feed into a conversation about the Chromebook. So we know that at home, whether you received a device as part of your transition from school, like Rob just mentioned, or you have a Chromebook at home, or you have a PC or a Mac, we're going to talk about these Chrome profiles in just a moment. and what that means to supporting your child with Hapara. And we're going to give you some examples of a program called the Hapara Highlights afterwards that I'll ask you to remember this conversation on Chrome profiles just as we move forward. So I'm gonna bring in a different view to you. I'm gonna drag in a uh, student 17. And so student 17 is a fake student account that we use to model sessions like this. And you will see that it's on a school webpage, the Guardian Angels webpage. And we will show you the student portal. I can flip to it right now. But for the purposes of this conversation, I really want to highlight your Chrome profile. So um, if I'm logging in on a Chromebook, it logs into the Google Chrome browser. So that's good. And if you are at home, this also involves you downloading the Google Chrome browser and using such. Google's got some fancy colors today, so that's good. That's probably bright on your screen right there, popping out. So I want to just kind of direct you in this moment in time to what it means to kind of share a Google Chrome browser. So if you have two children that are using the same device, and when we get into the student portal, there's going to be lots of opportunity for students to be logged in, to access the student portal with your OCSB student.ca account, and then to access all the great softwares in there that can help your child learn, as well as to make sure that they can enter products that serve them like Hapara. So I'm going to point out two items up at the top. And so one, they kind of look the same, but they're really different. So up here, it's right up, I'm in the Google Chrome browser, so you can see that I could close out, I can sort of minimize, and this is Google Chrome settings, and right here is student 17. So if I click on that, I'm signed into student 17, and there is a feature of having that sync on, so I can use that across multiple devices. And you can see down here that I do have some different accounts that I can flip in and out of for here. So if I flipped on student 20, if this was your other child, I could just open it up, and you can see that it actually opens up a different Chrome window, a different browser, so to speak, so that right now I'm keeping my accounts separate. I'm going to bring back student 17. So I just wanted to show you that student 18, I think I clicked on, is here in a different Chrome window and browser. And student 17 is over here. So I'm just keeping accounts separate. So that's the point of this discussion right now. And if I click down here, I can see that student 17 is signed into the browser. And if I click here, you can see that a lot of people will typically keep one person signed into the browser, but then add their Gmail, add another child, add another person in here, and they keep on signing in and out, and it gets very complicated for people to remember which browser they're in and which account they're signed into. So they may get sometimes where they can't access a document and so forth. So keeping both on the same page by using the Chrome browser and separating yourselves by those type of sessions is very handy. There is a video that we have on the Google slide deck, which I'm going to go back to in a second. And it does have a video of what it means to be able to do that, so that if it was a little bit too quick or too complicated, we explain it in a little bit more detail and at a slower pace on that video. So basically, one Chrome browser per child. Try to keep them separate for you and for your child. I will flip over here to the student portal, but I just want to make sure, if I'm just going to go back to the slide deck, make sure I haven't missed anything on that, if there's any questions coming in. So student portals is our next piece. So if there's no questions, Rob, I'm gonna throw it back to you. And do you want me to keep on screen sharing for you?
That'd be great. So
Sure.
one of the things that we've done for your kids is when they sign in, we bring up the portal for them to access software. So as you can see on here, the top row has all the key things for accessing Google and creating content. And the first one on the left is their Hapara dashboard, which you're going to see in a minute. And that's where the teacher's putting all their content. And then it goes down. You can see we've broken them up into creativity and design, math, French, literacy. And then some other resources that we don't necessarily pay for but support us. Except for Encore, we do pay for down there. So and Learn 360. Anyway, we'll fix that. So there's lots of content down there supplying your student and supporting our curriculum delivery with our teachers. So you may see, kids may be assigned to say, hey, or parents, maybe you can help them with their math by letting them play Zorbits even outside of some school time or things like that. So in kindergarten, the only tool we'd be using most likely for math is something like Zorbits, which is game based. So there's lots of things in here. If you need some books or things to support kids, then there's several things in here like Abdo or Sora is a full library, and you can find lots of books for young kids in Sora as well. Bookflix, Abdo, all do that. And they may be assigned even some RAS kids, which has leveled readers within it. So that's down on that literacy line as well. So there's lots of content on here, and it's simple for kids because as soon as they sign in, it just pops up. So you may want to come back here later, and up in the top left, you'll see the forms portal. So we'll touch on that a little bit later as well. But it is on here right now. It will be moving to the parent portal.
Thanks, Rob. And so, like Rob mentioned, if your child logs in to their account in a Google Chrome, it should pop up automatically for you, the student portal, I mean, in their account in their browser. However, if for yourself, if you're just in your own parent account, one way you won't be able to access the student piece, but how your child might do it is you can definitely access the website here, but if you click on student portal, you need to be logged in as a student, but that's how they could also get there just in case it didn't pop up for them or anything. And they could bookmark that as well. Okay, so we're gonna keep on going. Lots of information flowing, but so much great resources out there to support your child. Okay, so obviously we're getting into transitioning into virtual. So the main component of us meeting today is to ensure that one, they can meet their teacher, they can get onto a meet, and they can feel supported. Because if all these tools are great, but if you're not meeting your teacher virtually, then that's an issue. So we want to make sure that you and your child can get on successfully. All this involves communication from your classroom teacher and invites to that. There's nothing that you need to do, meaning your child or you, to be invited to this. Your classroom teacher will send you invites. So the quick question is, how would I, as a student, or supported as a student, if I'm aiming at kindergarten, to get into a Google Meet? So I'm going to bring back student 17. There's student 17 again, and I'm going to bring up the student portal. And you can see that we, as Rob mentioned, we have a lot of those heavy hitter things that we use on an everyday basis, plus, of course, math, everything. But there's ones that you log in like Workspace and Google, especially in virtual. You can see we have Gmail, Drive, Calendar, and Meet. So if your classroom teacher has invited you, so they've got the updated list from in their accounts, you should see a couple things where you're invited into a meet. There are a couple ways to access this, but on the day of, it's easiest if a student, a child, logs into their device, opens the Chrome browser, goes to the student portal, and then accesses their Google Meet for that day by clicking on either the icon or the word Meet. What that's going to do is going to bring you to a screen that looks like this. Now, what you're seeing here is 11 a.m. was the meet that we created to do this session. And then I just put a test virtual meet for this student 17 in there. But what you're seeing here on this page is an entry point for meetings or meets with whoever that your child has been invited to, and that would be your classroom teacher, for that day only. So it's not showing tomorrow, and it might not even show ones that have passed from like 9 to 10 a.m. if we weren't on there. But for today, this is where they would come in and they would click on this link. And you can see that it would be opening up, and I should pop up into this screen in a second, but my camera is off. There we go. And I'm just going to turn my mic off and so forth. But you can see that this is what's going to pop up when you click on that link. And this is like a sub-step. So as soon as you click on that meet link, it's not going to go right into the meeting. You can definitely mute your mic. And as you go in, turning on the camera, of course, we talked about the standards that your classroom teacher has created. So they may want you to come say hi, and then to save bandwidth, flip off the videos afterwards. But your classroom teacher has created those criteria that respects all their learners in their class. And then you can click on join now, and you would go.
You want to mention that background feature there?
Yeah,
just in
sure.
case.
Yeah, sure. So in here, there's a change background option. Thank you for identifying that. And there's a couple things because we are aware that sometimes we're in different places in different rooms. So here is the slightly blur your background, and here is the blur your background. And I'm using on the session today, blur your background. So you can tell that it's not completely wiping everything out, but it's definitely blurring it, but it's not totally blocked out. But I might even come back and then change this, but you have these full backgrounds on here. So you could be at your kitchen table with headphones on, and you wouldn't be able to see what was behind it. It's not perfectly around the head, and you might see a blip here and there, but that's only not the whole background. It just might be like around the ears or something. You might see some, it's not perfect.
I've
But
selected the messy technology manager background.
oh yeah, yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's real. That's awesome. And so you just click join now, and that's an easy way for your child to get in there that day. And so I'm going to click on the meet again, and you can see that that's that day and that's later that day. But you may be interested as a parent to know that your child is actually invited to meets that are beyond just today, just so you're not dealing with it in the moment. And on the student portal, you can click on calendar, and you may not have got received a notification because a lot of times it will just appear there from your classroom teacher when they make this invite or make this event. And when you click on calendar, you can actually see that right now, student 17, this is what they were seeing today in this test virtual meet, but we did not see the Tuesday and the Wednesday event on that Google Meet icon off the student portal. But it's handy to go in here just to make sure that, as we're going through this week, that your child does have other Google Meets that week and the next day, so that if you need to send a message to your classroom teacher just to make sure and say, oh, I'm not seeing something for tomorrow, can we just double check that, as opposed to in the morning when I'm trying to log in and getting all frazzled that way. That's a good thing just to check. So key thing here is click on Google Meet, and then you can see that it brings you to this page, and then you have everything you need for that day. Very simple for your child to be able to log in on that moment. All right. I'm seeing some questions pop in there, Rob. If I think I see one about an iPad. Definitely, in terms of the iPad device, there is a Google Meet app, and you should be able to. Everything requires an app on an iPad, pretty much. So there would be the ability to access the Meet that time. Keyboard was identified on there. It's helpful when your child can do both things at once. But definitely, in terms of accessing the Meet, they can definitely access it on an iPad. No worries there. Providing the the operating system of the device and everything, and storage and everything should be good. Is there anything you want to add about iPads on there, Rob?
It's just for the long term, for sure. We are a Google-based board, and the Flip Touch Chromebooks, will offer a lot of similar functionality to an iPad, and they'll serve you longer within our kind of learning environment than an iPad will. iPads are great for consuming stuff. They're a little harder to create stuff in the same way, so it's up to you. And certainly, it's nice to be able to access certain content on an iPad. Almost everything is duplicated in the Chromebook, and we also push out Android apps, which would be similar to iOS apps, and we can push those onto Chromebooks, and we do. So it is a way to go. For now, an iPad should be good for receiving stuff. It may be tougher for some of the other things as they start to get keyboarding and things in place. So it's something to think about.
Definitely, and we know that we're all doing our best with devices and situations that we have in the moment. And whereas if we really understand, I guess, what the goal is of the classroom, and we get a feel for that classroom teacher, if we know that a session, a synchronous being on, is just more consumption and being me interacting, showing something with my hands, then that might be okay on an iPad. Whereas if you have another device and they need to do something, like you said, with keyboarding, that's where I kind of mentioned the Chrome profiles, where we can just kind of, if they need to go on and do something for a bit, just kind of keeping those accounts separate. But definitely, it's new learning for all, and we're all adapting, including devices on that. Good questions. And the question
Just
is,
a question about recording. Yeah.
yeah,
So we can ask communications for sure to post these. There should be no issue. There is a communications channel where they post board meetings and everything like
yeah,
that. So I'll just ask them. We are recording it, so
yeah,
we just need to ask them to post. We can do that.
perfect, awesome. All right, some good questions come along. Love it. So a couple next slides on Google Meet here. So basically just reiterates the slide deck that I'm going for, and it talked about synchronous, which is meaning we're all doing the same thing at the same time, meaning and asynchronous is a lot of education words, but you probably heard in the ministry. Asynchronous is if we weren't on with our teacher all day, but right now the ministry is mandating a lot of that synchronous piece. So there may be opportunities for different modalities based on the activities that your classroom teacher is given. So one of the biggest things that you will probably be asked to is to support your child with sharing some learning. Now, we definitely know it's a bit different in the kindergarten level and what your child may be asked to do. So we try to give some examples of what students we've heard have been doing in terms of activities. But the question is, no matter what they're doing, how are teachers sharing this with you and with your child so that you can access them? So the key thing is they're not going to be. They may give you some newsletters or some heads up, but the key thing is they're sharing these learning activities with your child. So first of all, is you're going to have to log in with your child's account, not your account, and you can of course be supportive of that with them. And so there's a couple things that we look at, and I'm going to show you them by going back into student 17's account in just a moment. There's two places, and you might have heard them before. One is you've seen the word Hapara on the screen, but you've probably heard it before. But there's a place called Hapara Workspace, and you get that through the student dashboard. And there is a place that sometimes might be referred to in Hapara as your Google Drive folder. So we're going to show you both of those opportunities to find information. But the key thing is that your classroom teacher for your child will let you know that it's in the Hapara workspace, or they're going to say it's in the Google Drive folder, and they're going to tell you which one. But in most cases, we found a lot of people are using Hapara workspace. So we're going to focus on that right now as an entry point to model to you what it looks like, so you can get a better sense of what I'm speaking about. So here comes student 17 back on the screen. And I'm going to go back to the student portal. And to enter into a workspace, which is the environment in which the teacher has provided to you, you first have to go through the student dashboard. And so I'm going to click on student dashboard. And again, I'm in student 17 view. I'm in a student's view. And when you come in here, what you'll see, it maybe look a little busy, especially if this is your first time supporting your child in virtual learning and you don't have older children that have been in workspaces yet. So there's a lot to see, but I'm going to narrow it down to you for just a couple things. You might only see a couple workspaces. In the kindergarten level, there might be one for just for language. There might be one. Some teachers are using it by week, so you might have a workspace for this week. So from November 23rd to the 27th, and you might have all subjects in it. So it might be it might be a reading activity, it might be a numeracy, a math activity, or some supporting information. So sometimes it can just be, here's some videos and some things that you can help support at home, where some might be, I want you to post a picture of your learning or do something. So again, there's no way that as best as we can, because Rob and I are both educators, we're both educators at the system level in the coordinator role, that we can't give you exactly a replica of what every teacher is going to use workspace and how they're going to use it. But we'll try to show you. Like I said, some might use one workspace for all subjects for that week, kind of like an agenda for that week, and some might use different workspaces by subject or learning. So what you're seeing here is an entry point into workspaces. So I'm on the student dashboard, and you do have the ability to flip between the classes. And again, these are just CEC training classes. So that CEC is Catholic Education Center. That's where our board office is on. And in this case, your child wouldn't see that. They would see their specific subjects in those classes to be able to toggle between. The classroom teacher would say, oh, it's in your workspace. It will probably show up. If you only have 3 or 4, it won't be hard to toggle. But as it gets bigger, it might. On the left-hand side, maybe there's a due date, but at kindergarten, I haven't seen a lot of examples of due dates for this, but just remember this is a K to 12 tool. So you can see that if there was something that maybe there was something getting to know me better activity, you might see something in here that just said it was due November 30th. So there might be some due dates in there, but I'm sure all those would be communicated with your child as well. And so what I want to go back to is the workspaces here. And if it isn't a workspace, it would be clearly identified up here because your teacher would say, I want you, and maybe they're on the call. I want you to go into your virtual parent live stream workspace. So I'm a student right now. I click on this workspace, and what you're going to see is um, the possibility of having up to 4 different columns here. I only see 3. You might only see 1, and that's okay too. It depends how your teacher is going to use it. I see lots of different colors. Some have headers, but it doesn't matter because again, there's going to be that different use of it. Sometimes they call goals and resources and evidence. Sometimes teachers change the titles and they put in different things that make sense to the words in your class. It could be learning goals. It could be other supporting resources, and evidence might be show your learning. So the key thing here is that most of the information that we are going to submit, or at least start with our classroom teacher, is going to be in this evidence column, because you can see that there might be tasks here that are telling me to start something. And on the left-hand side, there's a resource here. In this case, there was a shape song, and there might be an instruction there. Please listen to the following song. And in most cases, it may not all be at the same time on the synchronous piece. So maybe it's like, okay, we're going to take a little break here. It's like the equivalent of recess time. And then we're going to come back, and maybe you've listened to this video before coming back on. So they might do something like that. And then we can talk about it when everybody's back in. So if there's an actual task, maybe, and this is where I'm trying to keep it as basic as I can, because I just want to make sure that I know that this is students in the kindergarten level. But there may be what we call here cards. So there's these rectangle cards here, and this is a K task. So this is nothing. It doesn't mean anything. It was a short form that I should have typed out kindergarten task example for. So there's no specific K task across the system that you should be looking for. This is just an example, and your child may come in and they can see that this is individual evidence. So they know that this is, if I click on this, I can start working on it. It's my own copy. So I'm going to click on that. And it's going to make a copy of this. And there could be a Google Doc inside. There could be a Google Drawing. In this case, it's a Google slide deck. And in this, what I'm showing you right now, again, is just an example. It may not be what you're seeing with your classroom teacher because they're going to use it in different ways, like I've mentioned. And in this case, it's not going to be usually just sent out without any explanation. The classroom teacher would typically talk about it a lot in class and give your child examples, give some context. This is what I want you to do. So, when we're out and we're having this lunchtime, maybe you can go around your house and you can look for different types of shapes around your house or outside and take a picture of it. So remember, I want you to look at, try to find a triangle. And remember, a triangle has how many sides in there? The kids would have 3. It's got 3 sides and has 3 points. I know it's vertices as they get older, but they call them points. So I might go around and try to find, maybe it's a cheese brick in a certain type of cheese in the fridge or something else. And then and take a picture. And then I try to find how to get this into this slide deck. We could be going a lot longer into how do I do that, but if I'm on a slide deck, insert image, and I can pull it from Google Drive or I can pull it from my computer. That's a way. If I have the app on my phone, I can toggle between accounts and take that in there. But that could be a follow-up session for parents. It could possibly be one. So we value your feedback on what we could support next. Same thing for square, same thing for circle, that type of thing. So that might be the activity that your classroom teacher has asked your child to do, is just make a real world connection, a real world example. And then maybe this is due in their mind. Can you have that done? It's not due, but maybe just have it done by the end of the week. So if I go back to our workspace, your classroom teacher, again, at the kindergarten level, that just by starting it may be enough. But they may say submit it. And if they needed to submit it, just so that they know you've done it, so they can go check it out. This is applicable if you have older children as well. Click submit. It does ask you, do you want to send the work to teacher? Yes. And what that does is it notifies the teacher that there's some work in there. But even if you haven't submitted, the teacher can still see the work. So don't worry about submitting it if your child's teacher hasn't mandated that you've submitted. As I go down, here's an example of the K task. It's the exact same task, but I've changed the color of the card. And I want to point out one thing for you is that there is group evidence here. Group evidence means that I would share this task with other students that the teacher is predetermined in that class or randomly, but they have purposefully put in by sliding their names into it, no matter how they determine that group. And you can see that I just want to notice the difference that the task is the same on here, except this one is individual evidence and this one is group evidence. So that's the key thing when you go into Aparo, just for your child to be aware that whether they are doing it as a copy by themselves or by a collaborative activity with some classmates. And there's another thing that I wanted to show you in Hapara, and that is sometimes I might just have something, a picture that I've taken, and I want to link it to this evidence column. And the teacher may have provided you a blank box like this where I could click a link. Going from Google Drive is great because I can click on Google Drive and then try to find it in my Google Drive, like a picture or video or something I've created. Likewise, you can click on the plus button and you could, as a student, just add that in there as well. But the teacher will have to be looking for it. If the teacher created a box like this, this is where you would just start the activity and then work on it that way. All right. So, Mr. Rob, before I transition to Google Drive, Hapara Workspace at the K level, things that, any questions or things I might have missed on that quick overview?
Yeah, a lot of things for K. I mean, kids aren't going to create tons of digital resources in K.
Yeah.
So the teachers are going to ask them to do crafts and other
Yeah.
things in your home. So get the glue out.
Yeah,
So you're going to be doing, I know they're going to ask you to do those kinds of hands-on activities with the kids
exactly.
and then showcase them or take a picture of them to share or whatever it is going to be. But they will often lay out the activities in HAPRA for parents to pick up to work on with the kids. So there won't be a tons of feedback coming back into these from the kids side in kindergarten.
That's right. And so there'll be a lot of supporting information in there. And it might be we've done that sort of craft and we want to take a picture of it. And then maybe we put that in our slide deck, our portfolio or something like that. So again, instructions from your classroom teacher on that. So something similar, just maybe it's a quick activity that doesn't involve a workspace. So it's still in Google. Even though I went through workspace, it opened up a Google slide. If your classroom teacher says to go to your Google Drive classroom folder, that does happen. If you come to the student portal and you click on Google Drive, you will see as you're in your child view that there are classes. Here's the CEC 1, 2, 3 training class here. And this teacher also shared the slide deck, again, a completely separate way. So this is not connected to Workspace at the moment. But if your teacher did say, go to your Google Drive and click on your class folder, this may be your language folder or your math folder, something like that, or your homeroom. If the student, your child, clicks on it, you can see that they could access it through Google Drive. And that would just be a different instruction from your classroom teacher. They'd say, go to your Google Drive class folder and look for this file. So it's not in Workspace. A lot of people do use Workspace for just the materials and support for you as a family, as a parent or guardian. So that's what we do see a lot at the kindergarten level, as Rob has mentioned. All right. So I'm just going to see. That was a lot of information there again. We're jam packing it in. And so we've kind of gone through a couple things, and I have one more piece I think I have to go through, Rob, and then we'll transition to more questions. And of course, your component of how do we, the forms and the parent portal as well. So teacher dashboard, Samaritans, I have to go back here. So there is a program, as I mentioned, called Hapara Highlights. And as we mentioned in our digital Samaritans on the Digital Road platform, here comes student 17 again. I want you to notice how many tabs they have opened as I go to transition this example. But our job as an education board is to help prepare students for life. And so, of course, Rob mentioned the Google for EDU domain and how it's, even with their Gmail, I don't think we mentioned this yet, but I'll mention it. Is that at the K to 6 level, emails that we give to them are fenced in. So what that means is if you are a parent with a Gmail and you email your own child in the K to 6 panel, it will not get through. Likewise, your child emailing out um, is fenced in as well. There are case by case basis if the classroom teacher is trying to do a special project or something like that and they needed to do it. That's case by case, but in that case, the parents are aware, the classroom teacher is aware, so we can look for any anomalies and making sure your child is protected from that piece. Once they get to grade 7, we open it up, and then the purpose of Samaritans on the Digital Road is to make sure that we support them in all the tools that are available in this world on how to use them effectively and not block them from using it. So there needs to be a support level and a teaching level. So in this case, when we look at highlights, what that means is when especially if I'm teaching virtually, it would be great if I could open up a tab. If I said, oh, I want you to read this article, or I want you to look at this picture or this video, and I could open it up and it could be there right for you, open on your screen. It would be great if I could send, this is just classroom teacher to their own child, students again, a message saying individually, great work, I really like how you're doing this, or to the class, okay, this is some feedback in the moment without actually me having to use the voice. So that's the main pieces, but also since we're in the virtual environment, it's also important that we also need to support our students because we can't walk around the classroom anymore and kind of make sure that they've got their device open, proper tabs open, that type of thing. And again, there are firewalls, there are restrictions in their accounts. So that's not what I'm speaking to, but we also need to support them being on task. So you can see that in this browser up here, this student 17 has Minecraft open, but as you notice, he or she has never been on Minecraft on this session. So I'm going to show you what that looks like for Hapara highlights. I'm going to go back to a slide and just give you a little bit because I want you to remember that this tool is in the Hapara suite of tools that our teachers use to be able to do everything I just talked about to help support them with their assessment, with their learning. But there also is one piece that ties into Chrome window and making sure that we are keeping them separate, especially for your parents' accounts. So highlights will give little static snapshots, and static means that every 5 seconds the picture will refresh of what is open on a Google Chrome window tab for student logged into their OCSBstudent.ca account. So not anything else that's on the computer, only on that OCSBstudent.ca a Chrome profile and that window that is open. And it's only between Monday to Friday, 8 to 4. And I'm going to show you what that looks like from a teacher standpoint in highlights. So we're kind of clear why I put so much emphasis on Chrome profiles at the beginning so that we could keep our windows separate just in case. So I'm going to click on here, and this is a view of what a teacher might see. And you can see that student 17, I didn't put student 20 in there. I'm just going to refresh my screen. It says students not, let's see if I can pull that in device. There we go. I might have to refresh it. Information's on the way. Perfect. So this is what I'm seeing as a teacher, but I'm really not focused right now on those pieces of the browser. I just want to show you up top. I have the ability to send a message. I have the ability to share links, which is great. I have the ability to also say I'm only going to keep things open for this tab and this tab so they're not distracted on other tabs and so forth. And I also have the ability to pause the screen, so I'm not clicking around. So that'd be the equivalent in the classroom. The teacher said, I want you to put your books down for a second. So the teacher might say, I'm going to pause your screen for a second, just so I can really give you the instructions without you being distracted of the keyboard or distracted of turning on and on or changing the backgrounds. But what the teacher is seeing right now is that this is student 17, or these are all the tabs that I asked you to look at that were open on the student 17 account. I can't see what all these are, what they're on, but I can see that they currently are on the student portal K to 6 page because it's bolded. If I went to their current screen, again, that's why I said it was static, nobody's watching anything live, but you can see that here is just a snapshot of what that student 17 is seeing, but it's not live, it's not moving with their mouse in live time. And I will switch it over to on student 17 right now to Minecraft. and I will see it in about 5 seconds. It will flip over. There we go. That's about 5 seconds from when I clicked it. So they're not seeing anything. It just might be something where I need to send a message as part of that classroom management piece, but not a policing piece, because a lot of teachers just they're not using this piece. They're using the send and the message. They're sharing the links, that component. But it's important that we do. Obviously, we're transparent about it, because it's in your child's OCSB account. So it's not accessing the computer, it's accessing their Chrome profile and the window that's open. So that's why it's important to be logged in up here. And for me not to come by and then in a student account, um, open up my banking or your email or anything like that. Make sure you've opened up another Chrome profile browser window. So that's the key piece of us being transparent about what highlights is. And we are that information should be coming home in newsletters within your from the virtual school to support that information with you about what it is and what are some examples of that, and what Chrome profile video will also be there. Okay, so we've been answering questions along the way. We've gone through a lot, and I know I've squeezed some time based on those questions, Rob, for your part, so I apologize for that. But I will. Are you going to take the screen now for? Okay, so I will stop presenting and I'll pass that off to you.
All right, the other thing that's important for parents, and I'm just going to share my screen over here, is screen here, share, is that we have a few things to support parents. So one of them is the parent portal. And so to get to the parent portal, the basic starting place for you should be to go to, I'm going to take you live with me, OCSB.ca. Oh, let's try that again, OCSB.ca. So if you go to the actual board portal, then you can access the parent portal from there. So this is what comes up. And a couple of things on here, which we're going to show right at the end, but since I'm on the screen before we hit the parent portal, if you're looking for support, we will show you this at the end, but maybe we won't come back to this again because I'm showing it to you now. This is your core launch pad for support in your program. So if you're in the elementary program, like we're talking about today, then you can go to OCSB.ca and you'll get a bunch of resources, and who to contact and everything is here on OCSB.ca. So that's important for you to know. If I go back to the main portal again, though, which is back here, OCSB.ca, if I go under parents, I can hit the parent portal, which is right here. So if I pop in there, we'll get a little hand and go in, then you'll see the parent portal. So the parent portal is going to offer you an app for your phone, or you can do it on the web, either way. And basically you have to, if you scroll down a little, you can register, and it's going to ask you for some very specific information if you do that. So if you haven't gotten in yet, if you want to access your report card, forms right now are on the student portal, but they will be migrating here. But you do need to know some information about your kids and what you put into our registration system when you registered them. So it's going to ask you very specific information. So if I go back here, so that's for registering. And if you forget how to log in and come back to the portal, you can always do it on the web here if you don't have it on your phone as an app. Then you can come in here and log in directly, and it'll bring up a login page for you. All right, now I'm already logged in, so I'm not going to show you, just in case it pops up any of my information. But that's where you can log in. Also, if there's an issue, at least for the month of November, because we have a lot of new parents coming in because they haven't logged in quite yet. Although we're approaching the 50,000 parent account mark. So we have quite a few people in and accessing. But if you want your report cards and other things, this is where you're going to get them. A lot of you in kindergarten already had your kindergarten reports out. But if you have a problem, this is where you can report it. So that's the parent portal. We'll continue to launch new features in that. Links to useful services, things like that are all going to be consolidated into the parent portal. All right. So if you have questions about that, you can throw them up there. The other piece that we talked about really briefly was digital forms. And one of the things we saw was on the student portal is a link to the digital forms. So if you're signed in as a student, which you have to be to get onto those, you would go onto that student portal, which you've seen many times now, and you just go into the top left corner to access those. Bill, do you want to bring up 17 real quick and just pop them in there?
Yeah, I can present.
So if Bill brings up his student 17 again, then what you'll see on the student portal, which you can easily get off of either when they log in, usually initially, or off of your school website. So if you went to a school website, you would get it, or here you go. Wow, that's flashing really oddly.
Oh, I will.
Yeah, take your.
Yeah, I'll try it again.
Yeah.
Weird, eh?
Yep.
All right, I was just making sure you're awake. Hey, it's still doing it, eh?
Yeah. All right.
I'll try one more time. Third time's a charm?
It's very strange.
I know.
I've never seen that before. All right. Either way, on that portal, you're going to see right now we just launched 2 forms that we were asked for. One was the media sign-off form. There we go.
Hey, third time's a charm. Yeah, just
So you have to be logged in as your student to access them because it takes the information from your student's account, and it takes their student number and fills it into the form. So if you have multiple kids, you're going to have to log into each of their accounts to actually fill these forms in. So your school, especially the virtual school, may ask you to do this digitally, and this is where the forms are going to be. So we're starting to roll those out. The first 2 ones that we were asked to put up were the responsible use agreement for using technology. And that there's 2 different forms for that. One is for elementary, one's for secondary. And so when you go into that form, you're going to see you can fill it all in. It'll have your student's ID in there. We just filled one in for the student account. And as you go down, you'll see a sign off and everything in there. So we would ask that you do that. Some of the things we want you to, be aware of is that for the little kids, it's not as big a deal for the behavior piece of this, but we expect kids to behave when they're online. And so we're just asking you to have those discussions, especially with your older kids. So that's where you're going to find those. And that will grow. And they will move to the parent portal probably in January. And we'll notify parents when changes like that happen.
And we did have a question last time, Rob, if they filled out this responsible use of tech agreement in their brick and mortar school because you're transitioning in. We have added those specific pieces about Google Meet and recording, that type of thing, and just using that as well. So we would ask you, even if you've done that, when you get information from the virtual elementary program, we're asking all existing virtual and people transitioning in to fill in this, regardless of whether they did the paper copy in September with their school homeschool.
And when you fill it in, you should get an email with a linked copy to it. So if you want to take it and print it or do whatever you want with it or forward it to your teacher, you can do all those things. And then your OA, the office administrators of your schools will be able to look those up shortly also. So you can do it either way, but you should get a link back saying confirmation of this form so that you can access it as well.
Yeah.
And then I think the next slide is just about resources and things. So we showed you the 2 core resources for you to access your virtual academy. So that's an important resource for you to find all your contacts and everything, and a bunch of supports for you. And then there are, besides those, the other one we're really recommending that if you need to get support or have a voice or something that you feel maybe you need to make a connect with others on, CSPA is on there. So that's the Parents Association. So you can always connect with them. They also have regular seminars for more information for parents. So it's a good place to visit as well. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Rob. So the link here that you were referring to when you went to the OCSB.ca site and was able to get to the elementary virtual programs. So there was a question here, twofold. One was about when will the teacher contact me or us? And so one of those avenues is that we're getting close to that transition time, but of course your homeschool that you're transitioning from is a place to start, as well as the contact information that was on the site linked off. So the information you might have already received about the virtual program email address as well, because obviously you can't email your classroom teacher yet because you might not have heard from them. So that's the point of the question. So there's those double avenues to make sure that you get what you need. So the virtual elementary program and the your homeschool, just in case you don't hear back from the virtual elementary school. Your homeschool won't know your virtual elementary teacher, so to speak. So that would be your first line of defense, would be the virtual program. But if you haven't heard something in a reasonable amount of time, which is seeming around that standpoint right now with today, then that might be a thing for you to reach out.
So, Bill, in the elementary, like 1 to 8, they had set that up as the day before the launch day as the last day for teachers to reach out, which will be tomorrow. So, because I think kindergarten is launching again on Wednesday. So by tomorrow afternoon, is the last kind of, I know that's tight for the launch the next day, but those are the deadlines that they were giving teachers. So, I mean, if you haven't seen anything realistically after 1, you may want to reach out, because that should have been enough time for them to reach out to you. So if you're still feeling nobody's contacted you, then go to the elementary virtual program page that you saw on ocsb.ca, and the contacts are there for you to reach out to the administrators of those programs.
Yeah, and there's we just have to remember, as part of that transition piece, that it's possible that maybe that your child's name was provided to the classroom teacher today at 10 or this afternoon at 2, but they're teaching right now as well, so they may not see it till after school, and if they don't get it till tomorrow, that'll be the same thing. So of course we want to get that information to you as quickly as possible. It's in the best interest for everybody for that to happen.
And if you're looking for hardware and devices to support your child, then ideally this would have transacted already, but otherwise you may want to reach out, like I said earlier, to both teachers at this point, just to make sure that the message gets through. So your virtual teacher, if you've heard from them, otherwise your home teacher if you haven't. So if you've heard from both teachers, then reach out to both and just let them know. And then if you haven't, go back to your home teacher, because it should have been fed through the school to make this happen already. So do reach out though.
Yeah. I think in terms of current questions, I think we've covered a lot of the questions that are on there, just most recently the postings. So we will give a few more moments to allow you to put in some questions. I'm thinking if we haven't covered anything or you need some clarification. But really, this is meant to be an overview of what it is to be in the land of virtual, as well as the main thing was to get you into the Google Meet and be able to access any learning activities for your child. So if you have any questions, please use the tinyurl.com/OCSB tech questions. And then, as mentioned, we do have the link to the slide deck here, so you can reference some of the materials on there, which is, again, tinyurl.com. It's the URL in the black colored font here, /OCSB lowercase tech pres with a capital T and a capital P for presentation, but in short form, VA. So OCSB tech pres VA, and that will give you access to the slide deck for today. But of course, a lot of the information we've talked about is on the Samaritans website as well. And we can support you as best we can through that evolving website as we move forward.
Okay, and I'm going to say bye for now, and Bill can handle any of the other questions. I need to be on another meeting. But thank you for joining us, and have a great start on Wednesday. And enjoy virtual learning. Take care. Bye.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Thanks. And for the group here, I'll stay on for another minute, but the questions have slowed down. So I'm thinking that since we've gone over by a few minutes, that people have reached out to what they need. So I think that I'm also going to say thank you. I'm going to say thank you for participating at home as joining this live stream. And again, I also echo Rob's sentiments about wishing you the best for the transition for your child into this virtual session. There's so much going on at home as parents, as children, as students, as staff members, and everything. So we'll get through it together, and we'll make sure that this is going to try to go as smoothly as possible. So thank you, everybody. I hope you have a great rest of your day.